Hello, everyone. I am Stephanie Barassa, and I am the Education and Events Coordinator with SUMA. It's my pleasure to welcome you today to our webinar, Immigration and You, Understanding Immigration Programs and Services. Thank you all for attending. This webinar is part of our Express webinar series and features 3 15-minute presentations on how working with newcomers can enhance community development and sustainability. Today, we're joined by Shelley Kilbride and Stuart Lowe from the Government of Saskatchewan Ministry of Immigration, April Sora and Jasmine Calex from the City of Saskatoon, and Denise Reevely and Heather Shepard from the Regina Police Service. Today's webinar will be moderated by Councilor Crystal Froese from the City of Moose Jaw. Thank you all for joining us. A link to a recording of today's webinar will be sent out to all registrants within the next few days. Be sure to keep an eye on the municipal update and member emails for future webinar opportunities. This will be SUMA's final webinar for 2021, but we invite you to join our sponsor, Sumisher, for their upcoming webinar on taking action to prevent arson that is open to all Sumisher members and non-Sumisher members. Please sign up today to learn what your community can do to prevent arson. The link to register will be included in the chat, and we will also include the link to register in the email that goes out with the recording to this webinar. I would like to thank our webinar platform sponsor, Sumisher. Sumisher is your trusted insurance partner, providing the best property and liability coverage to Saskatchewan municipalities. Thanks to Sumisher's sponsorship, all SUMA webinars are now free to all members. So as you know, SUMA uses Zoom. All of the icons should be along the bottom of your screen. The audio settings are at the bottom left, and if you are having problems with audio on your computer, you can use that setting to switch to phone audio by clicking on it and hitting switch. There will also be the opportunity to ask questions during today's presentations. Along the bottom of the screen as well is a Q&A feature. If you enter your question into this feature, you have the opportunity to ask your questions anonymously, and others have the opportunity to upvote your question if they also are wondering the same thing. So now that we have all the housekeeping out of the way, I'd like to pass it over to Councilor Froese with the City of Moose Jaw to start us off for today.
Hello, everyone from Moose Jaw, the home of the world's tallest moose. I am moderating today from Treaty 4 territory, traditional home of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis. We acknowledge the harms and injustice of the past and the present and dedicate our efforts to working together in the spirit of reconciliation as we are all treaty people. I was very grateful, and it was a pleasure to host a conversation back in June around working with newcomers to build sustainable communities. And so it's my privilege to carry this conversation on and focus on immigration and you understanding the program and services. As we know, our government has a very prominent goal in their strategy to reach 1.4 million by the year 2030. So we know immigration plays a really key and very important part of that. So this morning we are going to start off with our first presentation from Shelley Kilbride and Stuart Lowe from the Government of Saskatchewan from the Ministry of Immigration. So I will welcome them both and turn it over to them to begin a presentation. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Crystal, for the introduction. We're very happy to be here today, and if all goes well, we'll be able to share our presentation with you in just a second. Great. Are you able to see my presentation, Crystal? Excellent. Thank you again for allowing us to be here today to talk to you about the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program. Saskatchewan is a place of opportunity that welcomes immigrants.
Sorry, we're just seeing in the chat here that a few people aren't able to see the presentation, and I'm actually not able to see it on my end either. Would you mind trying to share it again, Shelley?
Sure. How about now?
Okay, we're seeing your screen share and it's just coming up as SUMA's website.
Okay, 1 second here.
There it is.
It's good. All right, excellent. Okay. Technical difficulties.
Bit of music.
Yeah, I know, right? And we even went over all of this right before. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I know. I know.
Okay.
Here we are. I
You're
think
able
it's
to
good
see
now.
it?
I can see it. Is everyone else? Stephanie, we good?
Yeah, it's coming up on my end.
Perfect. Okay,
Great.
away we go.
So Saskatchewan is a place of opportunity that welcomes immigrants. More than 146,000 newcomers from 181 countries arrived to approximately 445 Saskatchewan communities between 2007 and 2020. This has been a very positive trend, helping to address labor shortages and revitalize many communities. When the pandemic ends, the province will continue to require skilled workers to replace workers who are retiring or to fill gaps in the skills in the labor market. New permanent residents in Saskatchewan arrive through both federal and provincial programs. Approximately 7 out of 10 of these newcomers have immigrated to the province through the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program. Here's just a map which shows you the percentages of permanent residents that have landed in by top number of communities. You'll see that the majority have landed in Regina and Saskatoon, though we do have a number that have landed outside in the larger city centers, and then the remainder are sprinkled throughout the province. So this is just a quick look at all the various immigration programs in Canada. You'll note various pathways for immigrants to come to Canada to visit, to work, to study. The federal government also has 3 main permanent resident streams: the economic, the family, and the humanitarian streams. The Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program is an economic immigration program. The province focuses its efforts and partnerships on attracting skilled workers to the province and then retaining them here permanently. Our ability and strength in attracting skilled workers from outside of Canada stems from the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program, which includes our collaboration with employers and employer organizations. But the work doesn't end at just getting the skilled immigrants here. There's work done after they've arrived through settlement and integration services, with the end goal of retaining these skilled workers and their families in the province. Ict Settlement Programming complements federal programming through different eligibility criteria and delivery to some different locations. Provincial services are available to other immigrant populations as well, such as temporary foreign workers and international students. So what is the SINP? The Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program is an immigration option for people who want to build a career and future in Saskatchewan. An agreement with the Government of Canada allows the SINP to nominate qualified individuals for permanent residency. Criteria for our subcategories is based on labor market needs. Entry prerequisites and selection criteria vary by category and are based on several variables. For 2021, the SINP's nomination target is just over 5,000 skilled workers and their families. Currently, the SINP offers 13 distinct application streams offered under 2 umbrellas: labor market categories and business categories. One recently announced hard to fill skills pilot will fall under the labor market category of the SINP. Our streams are dedicated to the settlement and retention of foreign nationals with employment offers, entrepreneurs, international students, and those with skills that are considered in demand in the province. There are two primary categories of the SINP that all of our 9 skilled worker categories fall under, 10 actually, with the hard to fill skills pilot. These are the Saskatchewan work experience category that's used by foreign nationals who are already in Canada on a temporary work permit, as well as our international skilled worker category, which is for international skilled workers who are typically outside of Canada. 8 of the 10 labor market categories require a skilled immigrant to have a job offer from an SINP registered employer. The remaining 2 categories are for high skilled workers with education and work experience related to an occupation that's in demand in the province. Immigrants in Saskatchewan, and especially recent immigrants, are joining and successfully attaching to our workforce. As an example, the employment rate for new immigrants, so those have been under 5 years in Canada, ages 25 to 54, was 77% in Saskatchewan, compared to 70% nationally. The remaining 3 subcategories of the SINP are for entrepreneurs and farm owners and operators. And on that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Stuart to talk to you about the business categories.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Shelley, for the fantastic introduction and for doing a lot of the heavy lifting on the overview of the SINP. As was mentioned, the business categories are a subcategory within the nominee program itself, and the goal of the business categories is to attract and retain skilled entrepreneurs to come to the province and to establish new businesses, take on succession business opportunities, and otherwise create investment and create job opportunities. As was mentioned, the economy is very diverse and growing, and one of the goals of the category is to attract innovative entrepreneurs who are keen to come to the province and actively operate a business, which could be in a variety of sectors. So we have applicants who come, or we're looking to attract applicants in sectors such as IT and communications technologies, life sciences, agri-value and food processing, manufacturing, resource exploration and mining, wholesale trade and retail trade, and export is quite popular, as well as kind of the bread and butter of the program, which would be food services, hospitality, and things like that. The success so far of the entrepreneur farm category over the last few years, it has been quite substantial. It has helped attract skilled entrepreneurs as well as farmers who have invested just over $446 million in Saskatchewan communities over the past decade or so. So those would be investments just verified earlier this year, as well as some pretty substantial job creation information. So this year alone, even though it's somewhat in a pandemic, we've seen the creation of 249 workers, as well as the active investment of just over 27 million, or just shy of $28 million in communities all across the province. Similar to the skilled worker categories, there are specific eligibility criteria that we have. Applicants to the entrepreneur category obviously are self-employed, so they do not have job offers. They are coming to establish their own businesses. The basic category criteria is posted on the website. A lot of it has to do with being able to verify that they have proven entrepreneur or senior business management experience, as well as minimum net worth requirements, and are able to make an equity investment that meets the minimum criteria. But overall, we're very much looking at trying to attract applicants who are going to contribute to some of the strategic sectors in the province, address some specific needs as best as we can. Things like business succession, rural business development, and business succession continue to be large priorities of the program. So we are very much keen to try to attract and incentivize applicants to look at all communities across the province, and not just in the larger centers like Regina and Saskatoon, although, as Shelley pointed out, they do tend to be the more popular locations. But we do try to incentivize and prioritize applicants to look at various communities across the province. And yeah, we use a variety of incentives and tools to do that. We have an expression of interest process where applicants earn points based on the types of businesses that they're proposing to establish or the human capital factors that they have, whether it be language or net worth criteria. And we try to work to incentivize those types of applicants and then priority process those ones that are coming through. So we're very much keen to incentivize and direct applicants to establish businesses across the province in a variety of communities and variety of sectors. So there's more information on the eligibility criteria on the website there, as well as you can contact both programs and all program streams at the information on your screen. And I think that's it for us.
Great overview of the program from the province. So let's dive in. We'll go to the Q&A section. I actually have a question right off the top regarding the settlement and retention of immigrants through this program. Is there a commitment or sort of criteria around how long they have to stay in our province when they go through this program?
So on the skilled worker side, our applicants and our nominees are required to stay in the province until they receive permanent resident status from the federal government. At that time, they're like every other Canadian, and they can choose to move throughout Canada to explore other opportunities. But we do, as the Government of Saskatchewan and many ministries across the Government of Saskatchewan, have a shared interest in the retention of those newcomers to Saskatchewan. And so there are a number of initiatives and projects underway to help us meet our goal of 85% retention of newcomers through the SIMP to the province of Saskatchewan.
Excellent. And a question for you, Stuart. Seeing that in Shelley's first part of her presentation, the percentage of people who are immigrating into our larger cities, and your focus is predominantly on agriculture, are you finding that that the immigrants are easily transitioning into the rural communities through your program?
Yes, we have found that there are a lot of applicants, skilled applicants, who are very keen to look at rural communities. We have different criteria or application requirements that help to ease that transition. So for any business or any community outside of Regina or Saskatoon, we require applicants to actually come on an exploratory visit prior to having their application approved. So we require them to come visit the community. If they're looking at a succession opportunity, we require them to meet the current owner operators or the management of that business. Just so that they can get a lay of the land, have an idea of the community, and hopefully meet and network with relevant stakeholders in that community and otherwise. And yeah, we've had, for some, it is, the culture shock is significant. Our top source country of applicants is from China. A small city in China will have a few million people in it. So coming to Saskatchewan, where our largest centers don't come close to their smallest centers, and our smaller communities are obviously quite small. There has been some that it's been an adjustment for themselves and their families. And there are others, and many others, who, whether it's the romantic idea of it, they're fully prepared and they quite love it. We hear all the time of the benefits of everything from cleaner air to obviously friendly people, slower pace. That's typically what is reported to us.
Thanks. So we've got a few questions in the Q&A as well. This one is for you, Shelley. Would you be able to let Deanna know where they rank in Swift Current on the list of destinations that you presented?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't have that information handy, though I can find that out, and I can make sure that we pass it along through SUMA to all of the attendees today. I can actually provide, if you want, a link of some of the other top destinations as well that might be of interest to folks on the call.
Next question we have is, how do we ensure that the business is not just a storefront with no employees?
Good question.
Yeah.
No, I'm assuming it's for me.
Yeah, either or. And what is also the other part of the question is, what is the process for ensuring there's a language component and community involvement? This is a pretty big question.
Okay. Well, on the entrepreneur side, there actually currently isn't the language requirement, although we do require applicants to, when they're proposing their business and providing their business plan to us, document what their plan is for addressing that concern. Typically, it involves having either the requirement to hire local staff and or have family member that speak the language. As far as ensuring that the business isn't a storefront, the priority of the program is to have applicants who are living in communities and actively operating those businesses on a day-to-day basis. All the applicants who are approved sign a performance agreement with the province. Previously, that performance agreement was tied to a cash deposit of $75,000. We no longer require that, although now the performance agreement is tied to their permanent residence nomination or their PR application. So the program has the ability to conduct unscheduled site visits, interviews, and other program integrity activities to ensure that applicants are fulfilling the terms of their agreement with the province. And of course, if they don't fulfill the terms of that agreement, we have the ability to either withhold their successful approval for permanent residence nomination or other things. But yeah, it's very much a priority of the province to make sure that they're actively operating those businesses.
And if a community had concern about a particular business, would they just contact your office? And
yeah, absolutely. They could contact our office. We also have a program integrity unit that is part of the SIMP that also we work with quite closely in addressing some of those concerns. And our program integrity unit, which Shelley is also very knowledgeable of, they also work quite closely with colleagues on the federal side with Immigration and Immigration Canada to address some concerns as well.
Great. Next question is, our town has 4 different businesses for sale. How do we get the connection for the business to perhaps take this opportunity to find potential buyers?
That's also a very good question. Typically, the process that our applicants engage in when they're coming in and they're researching business opportunities is that they're using an immigration consultant or a lawyer. The province has a list of licensed immigration consultants and recruiters. So what we do suggest either individual business owners or towns or municipalities to do, if they have opportunities that are available, would be to reach out to immigration consultants or even business brokers who work in their communities who are engaged or connected to immigration consultants or lawyers who do that work. The province doesn't keep a list, and we don't sort of maintain a list of business opportunities to connect those partners, although there are service providers who do have started doing some of that work. I think there's a company called successionmatching.com, which is a Saskatchewan-based company that is working to do exactly that type of networking and connecting. So I know that there's a variety of different methods sort of in the private sector to do that engagement. Like I said, one option is just to reach out to an immigration consultant who might be doing some of that work. Otherwise, someone like successionmatching.com, I think, would probably be a good opportunity.
Wonderful. Next question is, what turnaround time do the businesses on the economic side that are waiting from start to finish, and who can they contact if they're having issues or problems?
Great, good question. If we're talking about employers then, or are we talking about business owners? Employers in Saskatchewan or business owners from overseas?
Turnaround time.
Okay, I'm going to go with employers. Here in Saskatchewan. So there is a 2-step process for an employer to use the SIMP in order to recruit and bring over a foreign worker from outside of Canada. The first process is that they need to receive what's called a job approval letter from the SIMP. That job approval letter is then provided to the candidate in order to complete an application for nomination. So the service standard for the job approval letters is at 6 weeks. And that's typically, generally, our service standard is 6 weeks for the job approval letters. We've seen quite an uptake actually in requests for job approval letters over the course of the pandemic for folks trying to fill vacancies that they can't fill locally. So the service standard, what people are actually experiencing, can be upwards of 8 weeks at this point in time. On the foreign worker side, as soon as the employer has that job approval letter in hand and they find a candidate to fill that vacancy, that candidate can apply to our program streams that are applicable to their occupation. And it takes upwards of 3 weeks in order for an application to be completed on our end. So from start to finish through the SIMP, an employer can expect between 9 and 11 weeks to have a candidate nominated. At that point in time, the nominee can then apply to the federal government for a work permit with a work permit support letter that we issue. And they can also apply for permanent residency at that time with their nomination certificate. The time that it takes to process work permit requests by IRCC and permanent residency application, it varies by location. But in some instances, in terms of work permits, it's usually about a month to upwards of 9 months, depending on the location of the individual when they apply. So again, you could have somebody here in 3 months. It could take up to a year, depending on the individual and where they're located in the world.
Great. Thanks, Kelly. I think that actually answers an additional question that somebody had. So I think we have time for one more. So I'm just going to ask, is the ministry working with municipalities in any capacity in any of your programs? Like, how are you working with our municipalities in our province?
Well, I can talk about that on our end. So the federal government has what is called RNIP, and I think it's the Rural Northern Immigration Pilot. And it's a pilot that they have established and are currently working with Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and it has some different requirements. So on the back end, the Ministry of Immigration and Career Training provided input into the development of that pilot program. For our program streams for labor market applicants, we typically engage with employers, and employers would typically engage then with the communities. So we don't have any necessarily direct connections with communities in terms of the programs, though it is something that we are exploring and has been a conversation that we've been having quite frequently over the last few months. So I imagine there'll be outreach from our program with municipalities in the short term about ways that we can better engage them. And that piece comes in terms of identifying employers that we could be working with that have a need. Also identifying some assistance that potentially we could provide through one of our other branches for community supports for foreign workers that are new to the communities, and various other avenues.
And Stuart, how about you?
I'll just echo the same thing that Shelley says. On the employer side, obviously, employers are their stakeholder. On the entrepreneur side, we are also interested in looking at opportunities to connect with various stakeholders that would be similar to entrepreneurs. So whether they be immigration consultants or recruiters who are doing a lot of the international legwork and recruitment and attraction of applicants, or whether it be individual business owners who are looking for resources as they look to exit the market, as well as municipalities and other economic development stakeholder groups as well. So we're very much interested in exploring how we can establish some relationships and learn about how the program could be better serving communities and or existing entrepreneurs and business owners in the province.
Excellent. Well, thank you both. We are going to move on now to our next presenters. We have next up is April Sora and Jasmine Calex of the City of Saskatoon. So welcome to you both. And we'll get the slides up and running here.
Hi, Crystal.
Hi, April.
Thank you so much for that. And I'm just going to put up my slides. Oops, hang on a sec. Is it up? Can you see it?
not in presentation form quite yet.
Hang on one second. Oh, shoot. I'm just going to stop sharing it. We do these practices ahead of time. So
We did, didn't we? Yeah.
we did. Hang on one second. Okay, I'm going to try this one more time. I'm so glad Shelley and Stuart went ahead of me. Okay, let's see. Oh, I did it again. I don't know. Can you see the PowerPoint at all?
We can see it. It's just in, it's not quite in your presentation form. Yeah. So you need, I think, to just start the presentation.
Yeah, it's kind of, hang on, I'm going to just move it. Oh no, hang on.
Go to slideshow. If you go to the slideshow toggle there in the top, you can see it along the.
Yeah, it's not. Oh, here we go.
There you go.
Is that okay?
Perfect.
Okay, so I just need to go up. There we go. Great. Thanks for your patience. Thank you so much, Shelley and Stuart, for that great presentation. It sets us up perfectly to talk about you know, the people, as you sort of outlined, how people come and who are coming to our cities. And we just like to talk a little bit about, you know, what the cities, some of the work that the cities do and can do to welcome and ensure that all newcomers, all residents sort of feel included and a part of our city. So I'd like to first thank Augustine and Stephanie for inviting us to be a part of this SUMA webinar. My name is April Sora. I'm the Immigration, Diversity and Inclusion Consultant from the City of Saskatoon here on beautiful Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. I just want to mention that, you know, I do recognize that there are so many cities and towns and communities that are doing such amazing work in Saskatchewan. So it really is an honor to be here, to be able to share just some of the work that we're doing, how we do the work, why we do the work, and then maybe some examples if we have a little bit of time. I'd also like to thank SUMA for all the wonderful work that you do supporting cities in Saskatchewan, and in particular for having someone like Augustine who, you know, had the great insight to be a part of SEISHA, to join SEISHA, which is where I actually was able to connect with her and then, you know, be included in something like this. So I do recommend, I just put the website here, the address for SEISHA, which is the umbrella organization for all organizations in Saskatchewan that provide services to newcomers, which really can be almost any organization, because really we work in all sectors providing services for newcomers. So today I just wanted to give a quick overview of why and how we do our work at the City of Saskatoon in social development, community development. And then if we have time, I'd like to give a few examples, and I would love to hear from other communities as well. So please contact me. I would love to have more connections with municipalities in Saskatchewan. It's one of the reasons I was hoping that we'd be able to be a part of this as well. I've done some work, we've done some work with other communities like Moose Jaw and Regina, but I'd love to do some work with other communities. So, you know, first we take a look at, from a social diversity perspective, who lives in our cities. And in Saskatoon, of course, the Indigenous peoples, who are the absolute first peoples of this beautiful land. We have settlers, second, third, fourth, fifth generation immigrants who have been here for a long time. We have recent immigrants who, of course, Shelley and Stuart were talking about. You know, they come here for a better life. They come here to join family, to go to school, for jobs. You know, they come here for many different reasons. As many immigrants as there are that many different stories. There are refugees who come here from places of war and famine and persecution. We have international students who come, of course, for education and jobs, temporary foreign workers who are here to provide services to our employers. And of course, there are children of immigrants. So these are all the people that, of course, live in our cities and our municipalities, in our communities. And I think one of the main roles in community development at the municipality is the idea that if we can serve the most underserved, then we can serve all. And I think the term underserved really puts the onus on us, the municipality, the service provider, as opposed to the individual, the resident or the citizen of our cities. So as a municipality, how do we make sure there's safe and equitable access for all residents to all our services, including services, information, programs, facilities, advisory boards, committees, commissions, civic engagement processes, and jobs. So, I could probably spend about 2 hours on this slide if we were to just brainstorm on, what are some of the barriers to access to information, barriers to access to programs, to facilities, to civic engagement processes. What are some of those barriers? Why can't everybody in our communities take part in some of these activities that are really critical to the foundation of our municipality and to our communities? So, I'd really be interested if anybody has input in this, please just put it in the chat. If you can think of, especially for newcomers, for some individuals who maybe English is not their first language, who maybe do not know our systems, what are some of the barriers that you can think of to that don't make our systems safe and equitable for everybody with equal access? If you can just, if you think of anything, please write it in the chat. I would love to hear, because I'm also here to learn, and I'd love to hear from other municipalities on some of the things that they've seen and done to address some of the inequities. So the role that I play, and that a lot of the individual, my colleagues in community development play, is to connect, coordinate, and convene to identify barriers to access. So internally with administration, this position sits on many different committees and works with many different departments in our organization at the city to ensure that sort of I have that knowledge, and I can also bring the information from community into the administration at our city. And then externally with community, I sit on many committees. Also, I connect with different organizations, depending on how can we help them to ensure that their services also are accessible, to make sure that it's inclusive. So working both internally and externally to connect, coordinate, and convene to identify barriers to access. And of course, all in the context here of newcomers. And so an example of this was when we started to get calls at the city from different individuals from groups, and we found they were from ethnocultural groups. And they were wondering, how do we get money from the city to do activities? We see other groups doing that, but we don't know how to do that. So we identified this as a barrier to many of the residents, especially newcomer and ethnocultural groups, that they didn't know the process of how to apply for funding. So we decided to have a forum. We created a mailing list, which actually took a lot longer than we thought it would, of many different ethnocultural groups. And we invited them to a forum to find out, what can we do to provide services for you that you need? How can we help to ensure that you're accessing all of our services? And so we had about 65 people come out. We had funders come and present to them. And we also asked them the question, what can we do for you? And they came up with a list, so many things that they wanted us to help them with. So we started with providing some workshops for them. We coordinated workshops, which also gave them opportunities across cultures to be able to learn together and share information. So we did workshops on proposal writing and board governance, and we were just in the middle of podcasting workshops as well. And then COVID hit. And so when COVID did hit, we then had a network that we could work through, which of course we never planned for, but turned out to be so helpful in two cases. One was in response to the Black Lives Matter movement. We were able to very quickly connect with community leaders in the Black community, bring them together, and they were able to meet with the chief of police, with the mayor, and it ended up at the city of Saskatoon with 3 motions going to council to talk about, to review racist systems in human resources, community engagement, and committees and boards of council. And so quite a large outcome based on conversations from these community leaders. And we were only able to do that because we had quick access and connections with them. We had already developed the relationships with them in community. Secondly, with the COVID response, we had an instantaneous communication network with the ethnocultural groups, so we could find out, are they okay? The mayor and the emergency management organization both had held information sessions with them to exchange information, and we were able to keep in touch with as many people as we could, just to make sure everybody was safe, and if there's anything the city could do to provide services for any of those ethnocultural groups. And lastly, as an example, we also worked with community leaders to set up COVID vaccine clinics in areas where there were many people from refugee communities who were having a very hard time accessing services, accessing the vaccine for many different reasons. So that's very quickly some of the examples of what the work that we're doing to ensure safe, equitable access. We can coordinate, connect, and convene to identify those barriers, and we work both externally and internally from the municipality. And again, I do know that there are so many people out there doing amazing work. I'm hoping that this will be an opportunity for us to learn as well. So if you have any ideas or thoughts, please by all means feel free to share them. This is my contact information. And the city of Saskatoon also listened to community, and they asked us to take the lead for the local immigration partnership, which we did. And so I'm very happy now to pass this over to my colleague, Jasmine Calex, the coordinator of the Immigration Partnership Saskatoon. Thank you so much.
Over to you, Jasmine.
Yeah, thanks, April. So I'm just going to share my screen with everyone here. Can everyone see that?
Yep, I can see it. Not in your slideshow mode yet. It was so smooth in our practice run.
Can everyone see that?
Yep, it's up and running.
Okay, wonderful.
Great.
So my name is Jasmine Calex. I'm the coordinator for the local immigration partnership with the city of Saskatoon. And I'm going to first talk a little bit about immigration to Saskatoon, and then talk a little bit about the LIP, as it's called for short, and some of the things that we're doing and some of the things that you can do. So, so just in terms of recent immigrants to Saskatoon, these are the regions that they've come from. So you'll see most are from Asia, and then there's smaller percentages from Africa, Europe, and the Americas, which is you know, Latin America, the Caribbean, Oceania is Australia, and so forth. In terms of the method of immigration, immigrants come from, these are the ways that they get to Canada. So economic immigrants are the largest percentage at 68%. And then refugees are 16%. And then the sponsorships by family are also 16%. In terms of just the makeup of the total population, so in 2019 to 2020, that was 6,000, a little over 6,000 immigrants, and that made up 15.6% of the total population of Saskatoon. So I'll tell you a bit about who we are as the Local Immigration Partnership. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of the Local Immigration Partnerships before. They exist in Canada. They've been around for about 10 years. And there are about 70 or 80 of them across the country in different cities. And the purpose of it, it's really a multi-sectoral partnership. And with our Saskatoon one, we have 70 local sectoral organizations that are part of this partnership. And what we're really doing is working together to facilitate the successful settlement and integration of newcomers to Saskatoon. And so we do that with the help of our sectoral organizations. We also have an immigrant advisory table because that sort of lived experience from immigrants is really important. And we're part of the city of Saskatoon. So local immigration partnerships are often housed within different areas. Sometimes they're municipalities, sometimes they're not. When it came to Saskatoon, the reason that they are housed within a municipality is because of the access to resources. It's a city, it's a municipality, it's really able to take on that responsibility. And we're also neutral because, as I'll show you in the next slide, we deal with a lot of different organizations, and it's really important to maintain that neutrality. Like, we're not settlement, we're interdepartmental, and so we have a lot of reach that way. And so some of the sectors that are part of our table, so we have our partnership council, we meet quarterly. And these are some of the sectors that sit on our council. So there's police, justice, our school boards, the health authority, higher education, so the university, housing, the settlement agencies, ethnocultural groups, government, both provincial and federal, and also economy through our Chamber of Commerce and Employment. So some of the things that we've accomplished this year is, as I talked about before, that lived experience from the Immigrant Advisory Table. So just making sure there's a wide variety of voices on there. I opened up applications to students. I noticed we didn't have any student voices, so these were university students. Another thing that we are partnering on is an affordable housing research project. And this is a national project that's taking place. So QSTAR stands for Community University Institute for Social Research. It's at the University of Saskatchewan. And this is a national project where we're looking at affordable housing, how it affects people. And of course, immigrants, newcomers, that's definitely one of those groups. So we're really happy to be a part of this project. And in terms of our looking forward, our goals and initiatives into next year, one of the issues that we've really noticed is that employment's really important for immigrants, so that they come here, they're able to contribute to society, they're able to have that sense of self, we're able to benefit from their expertise. And that's a huge challenge. And so we are going to be having an employment summit next year that we're in the very early planning stages of. And the purpose really is to sort of highlight what some of the barriers to employment are, and to see if there are ways that we as a partnership can help alleviate some of these barriers. And the other goal that we're working on as well is increasing our social media footprint. And so there'll be more social media posts and interactions from the local immigration partnership, from the Saskatoon Local Immigration Partnership. So how can municipalities help? And, one really important thing to look at is, are there any immigrant and refugee members on your councils, on your advisory groups, on boards? Just getting those voices in the room is really important, and that lived experience. We talked about before some of those employment barriers that we're looking into, lifting those so that, when people come here, they are more likely to stay because they can feel that they can contribute to society and they feel that their skills are welcomed here. Liaise with your local immigration partnership. So I know there are a lot of different municipalities represented here today. And so here is a list of the Saskatchewan local immigration partnerships and the contact info for them. So if you are in one of these regions, these would be the people that you would contact. And that is all that I have. So are there any questions?
Thank you very much. Questions, you can place those right into the Q&A part, and we can direct them to Jasmine and April. Thank you both for that great presentation. There is a lot going on in Saskatoon. Jasmine, who can attend the Employment Summit, and is it free?
That's a good question. We're going to be advertising it early in the year. And who's asking the question? Yeah, we'd be happy to share information with Suma. Well, I guess we'll share it with you, Suma. Yeah, we'll be happy to share like attendance and all of that. Yeah, we'd like to open it up to as many people as possible. So.
In the previous forum that I hosted, one of the big barriers that was discussed around that table is settlement and having a feeling of belonging and connection to the community. One of the presenters actually talked about how she was actually welcomed and partnered up with a family that really helped her and her family overcome some of the barriers. And this was back in the early 1990s when this wasn't really a huge topic of conversation. I'm just wondering, is there any programs out there that continue to do that, to look to partner immigrants with local families or representatives?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Crystal. And it's a great question. And like I said, we work with so many great organizations in our communities. And I know across Saskatchewan, all the settlement organizations do a lot of that kind of work in through mentorships, through family connections. They have all different kinds of, after school homework help programs, which, connect families, establish families here with newcomers in order to help sort of create those relationships and support networks as well. So yeah, lots and lots of good work going on in that area.
Great. Well, and thank you both. Yeah, wonderful information. Great list of connections there. I know Delise Hector here in Moose Jaw from Prairie Skies Integration Network. Yeah, her plate is full and she's doing some wonderful work here in our community as well. So thank you both for your presentation. We will move on now to our next presenters, which are Officers Denise Reevely and Heather Shepard from the Regina Police Service. So welcome to you both.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us. So let's hopefully our screen here works. Oh. All right, can you everyone see that? It's all good?
And see the presentation, but it's not in presentation form. We just see your.
Okay, because it is for us. So let's see here. That's probably what everybody was dealing with earlier.
Yeah, this is exactly the same thing. Yeah.
Maybe show. How about now?
Here we go.
Okay,
Right.
perfect.
Perfect.
All right, so thank you everyone for including the Regina Police Service today. So I'm Heather Shepherd. I'm the civilian member in the Cultural and Community Diversity Unit with the Regina Police Service. And with me is Sergeant Denise Reebley here. She is our NCO of our unit. So I'm just going to quickly go through some things that the Regina Police Service and our unit specifically are doing to welcome, attract, welcome, and retain newcomers to Regina. So just for a little bit of folks who may not know about our unit. So as I said, we're in the Cultural and Community Diversity Unit. Our unit has been around since 1983 after an inquiry into an incident with one of our canine dogs. And out of that inquiry was recommended that our unit be established to, first of all, focus primarily on relationships with Indigenous community. And at that time, the recommendation was it has 6 sworn members to it. They were given 1 sworn police officer to run the unit. And since then, we've evolved to not only broaden our mandate, but also have more members within our unit. So currently our mandate is to develop and maintain communication and build relationships with all ethnic, diverse, and religious communities in the city of Regina. And we have 4 members in our unit. So we have our sergeant, a corporal, a constable, and a civilian, myself. So what makes RPS attractive to newcomers? So we've done a few things, both externally and internally within the service. One of the biggest things that I could say for you folks is visibility. That is key. That is what we have found as a unit to be visible, and not just in person, but you can also be visible within your social media. And so with COVID right now, we're starting to be able to go out more and to hold events and go out and visit our partners. But during times, we found that social media was our best ally. So we used it as a tool to build our visibility and our audience, specifically towards newcomers and visible and diverse minorities. So what we do on our social media outlets is we celebrate and acknowledge different cultural, religious days, awareness weeks, events and festivals, and anything we attend. As you can see in the one's picture there, we'll post a picture of us attending just to be able to build that relationship and build that trust within our newcomers. Years ago, we developed newcomer videos, which are still available. They are videos translated, I believe, into top 10 languages at that time. So there are some languages that probably we can use now that they're not in. But what we have in these videos are videos on traffic laws, child abuse, domestic violence, because we know when newcomers come to Canada, they're given very little information about the laws in Canada. So that's one area our unit builds and works around, is to provide that knowledge. So those videos can be found on our Regina Police Service Vimeo page. And then internally, we've strived to create a workforce that is reflective of our community so that we can attract and retain members of the Regina Police Service. So as of 2020, we were at 8.1% of our workforce identified as a visible minority, and that was shy of our target goal. But of that, of our police service, 13.64% of our civilian employees identify as a visible minority. So what are we doing to welcome newcomers to Regina? Again, it's that visibility, and that's the way we'll build trust, especially to newcomers who come from countries that are corrupt and where police are seen in a negative light. So that's where we come in and we build those relationships and welcome our newcomers to Regina. So we do that by with our help of our partnerships, and we provide a lot of presentations to newcomer organizations. So a lot of newcomer English classes through the Regina Open Doors Society, Sask Polytechnic, our Beth Jacobs Synagogue also has English classes that we present at, as well as the U of R and other different organizations that we partner with. And within these presentations, again, some of the topics are law related, like domestic violence laws, traffic laws, what to do if you get in a traffic accident, all the way to knowing your rights here in Canada, because it's very different, and a lot of newcomers do not know that they actually, when they step foot in Canada, have rights. We also partner up with a bunch of different committees, and we're visible that way to assist. So one of the committees we heard from Saskatoon's local immigration partnership. We sit on the Regina Regional Local Immigration Partnership, and we hear concerns and barriers from their Immigrant Advisory Committee and how we can help if there is an area where police matters need to be addressed. So how do we retain and continue to build relationships with our newcomers? It's just being that visible, being welcoming to all different diverse communities. So once we're able to go to more of those events that are happening, we will. So we participated in Mosaic many times. We're been visible through the different areas like the Sikh Parade, World Refugee Day, any events that we can go out to, we will be visible. And with our unit, it is not there, of course, to be enforcement. It is to build those relationships with our newcomer population. Within house, internally at the Regina Police Service, to retain our diverse membership, we have recently created an EDI strategy. And so where our unit comes in is, we help with the training, the education, and through our partnerships. We assist our HR in recruitment of diverse folks because we have built those relationships with them. And, for the retention part, it's how we can adapt RPS to make it a safe, inclusive, and supportive workplace. So one thing we are doing both externally and internally is the chief is in the midst of creating a chief's community diversity advisory team. That's an external committee that would help him guide the Regina Police Service on various community nuances and considerations, and guiding us on what we need to be aware of, any sensitivities, education, different etiquette that we can provide to our police officers, and help building that relationship between the police service and RPS. Internally, we're starting to also create an internal equity and diverse inclusion support team, I guess, where those members can address maybe some issues or concerns within house, whether it's policy internally or things that we can work on into education and supporting our membership. So I had mentioned since no events have been happening, how do we stay visible, both external and internal? I've already talked externally, but internally, that was one of our passions, was to educate our members and get our diverse members involved and sharing their stories of who they are and maybe some struggles they've had externally or within the organization, just giving them that voice. And to be visible within our own organization. So our unit during some time with COVID here, we had a lot on our plate. We did a lot of educational videos, a lot of member testimonial videos. We did some of our Black members do videos for February with Black History Month, which was amazing and internally was very well received. We'd had member testimonials that were sent out specifically in June for Indigenous Heritage Month. We also did a video of our members who self-identify within the gender and sexual diverse community, did a video that was shared both internally and externally. As well as just educational emails going out from our unit to our membership on different days. So I have a couple examples up there. As we did, hey, Ramadan's happening. This is what Ramadan is. And during the Sikh Heritage Month, we did a portion on our Sikh community here in Regina. We recently, yesterday, just set informational one on Hanukkah because it was the start of Hanukkah. So that's just something our unit's been doing to, make those members, our diverse members in-house visible and feel included within the organization. And that's really all we have. There are 3 unit social media platforms. So you can follow our unit on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. And I put our email up there and phone number for you if you have any questions or like any information from us.
Thank you very much. It's interesting because some people might not think, well, what would the police have to do with immigration? Well, holy smokes, the amount of work that you are doing is pretty incredible. And we take for granted, I think, that we just kind of know what our laws are here and what our rights are as well. And coming from a different country into our communities, from people from all around the world, it's not the same, obviously, at all. And the education that you do around that is so important. And even I talked a little bit about the belonging part and being welcoming. I see you guys have some really great programs and that. I'll just check and see if we have any questions in the Q&A here. Do you provide those programs in French? Is a question.
The presentations in French, or no, we don't. The only thing we have in French would be the videos on our Vimeo page, our PS Vimeo page. So if you Google Regina Welcomes the World, they will come up, and French is one of the languages that they were translated into.
Excellent. And we have a question that was up a little while ago, and it's specific about what is the English requirement? This is actually for an entrepreneurial stream, so maybe we can open that up to a couple of our previous presenters. What is the English requirement? Oh, and it just disappeared. What is the English requirement for entrepreneurial stream, and is it the same for all communities? With the minimum requirement, we as elected officials can communicate and sell our cities as a great place to live, work, play, invest, and raise a family. But with no English, this communication does not happen, and we lose people to places like Toronto and Vancouver.
Yeah, so this is Stuart again from the SIMP from the business category. It's a very good question and a very good point. As I've mentioned, there currently isn't a minimum language criteria for the entrepreneur or farm category, although we do require applicants to satisfy the program that they have a plan for being able to provide services and work in the community. Like I said, either hiring locally or using family members who have language ability. We are looking at the options for or considering what a minimum language criteria would look like and how we would implement it as long or in addition to our other program criteria. We do have a pilot stream for international graduate entrepreneurs that actually requires those applicants to have a minimum language criteria. And again, we're also looking at other jurisdictions to see what they do and how they assess that criteria and what it means for being able to attract the best and brightest into communities all across the province. So it's very much a point well taken, that particularly if it means that local service providers and local municipalities and stakeholders can't communicate and even market their programs directly or speak to people as they're coming in and conducting exploratory visits. That's very much a good point and something that we've identified as well. So we are looking at what that would look like and how that would be implemented. There's no immediate plans to add them, although it is under consideration.
Thank you, Stuart. I know it is. It was a topic of conversation in our previous forum too. Communication is so important. It's also so key to feel like you belong. And I know we have a few of those struggles here in our city with some of the immigrants that have opened up their businesses and that. But as you see, there is lots of different programs out there that they can enroll in to help. I know we have had one here actually in our own library, is conversation English, and that's been very helpful for people too. The other question we have here, I think this might be for Denise and Heather. Do you have an equivalent teams in Saskatoon or other cities that work in the same capacity that you do?
Yeah, actually we do. We recently just actually had a meeting. We're part of what we call the Saskatchewan Cultural Units and Equity Diverse Groups. So what that is we meet probably roughly quarterly with all the cultural or community groups within the police municipalities as well as the RCMP in Saskatchewan. So some of the smaller agencies like Moose Jaw, Estevan, Weyburn only have one sworn member who is on probably a multiple of handfuls, because I know like Moose Jaw, for example, there are SRO, school resource officer, your cultural, your community, your media. But the larger centers like Regina and Saskatoon both have community engagement units as well as cultural and equity units as well.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. I think the common denominator of our conversation that we've had today is that it's so important to continue to work together on immigration. There's lots of resources out there, and sometimes we don't know what they are. And these presentations are exactly that, is to focus and bring and highlight all the great resources that we have here in our province. So they are there, they are just a click away, so to speak. So I would like to thank the Saskatchewan urban municipalities for hosting this important conversation. Also would like to thank Katie and Stephanie and Augustina and their staff for hosting us here as well. And of course, for Shelley and Stuart from the Ministry of Immigration, and April and Jasmine from the City of Saskatoon, and Denise and Heather from the City of Regina Police Service for sharing all your important information and all the wonderful work you're doing on behalf of immigration here in our province. Thank you very much. And with that, I will turn it back over to Stephanie.
Great. Thank you so much, Councilor Froese. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for being here today, and to let you know that there will be a recording of today's webinar sent out to everyone who has registered for the webinar. Remember to keep an eye on the municipal update and member emails for future webinar opportunities. Our sponsor, Sumisher, will be hosting their upcoming webinar on taking action to prevent arson that will be open to all Sumisher members and non-Sumisher members. And I'll put the link for that in the chat again, and as well in the email that goes out for this webinar if you are interested in participating in that. There should be one more poll popping up on your screen now. If you could please take a minute to fill out this short survey so we can improve our webinars. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you all again in 2022. Have a wonderful day.